The Envelope Video Podcast is presented by Universal International Studios Golden Globes nominee, The Day of the Jackal.
Are you happy that this is happening to you, like at the age you are, the kind of place in your career that you are? Like, what is that like to you that it's happening to you now?
Well, because I don't have any experience of it happening to me at any other time or age, right now it's perfect. It's exactly as it was supposed to be.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Envelope. Kelvin Washington alongside my crew. You have Yvonne Villarreal and also Mark Olson as usual. So this week, we're starting with you, Kathryn Hahn. Mark, tell us a little bit about it.
I think phrases like national treasure and protect at all costs kind of get overused,
Right.
but they definitely apply with Kathryn Hahn. And she's, currently kind of vying for recognition in both Agatha All Along, a kind of unconventional Marvel story about a coven of witches, and also The Studio, where she plays a Hollywood marketing executive. And, both of these roles really capture what she does so well, which is she plays these characters that, on the one hand, are very extreme and ridiculous, but she also finds like an emotional core to them that makes you feel for them in ways that are just unexpected. And so it was, and also I've interviewed her a number of times for some of the independent films she's done over the years, and she just remains just a true delight to talk to.
Because
always
she's
great to hear.
mother.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, that's a real thing. M-U-V-A, too.
Yeah.
That's how it's mother, okay? Don't get it twisted. I swing to you, Yvonne. You had Amy Sherman-Palladino, also Dan Palladino. How'd that go?
Yeah, so they're the married collaborators behind some of our favorite TV series, and their latest is for Prime Video, and it's called Étoile, and it follows two dance companies, one in New York and one in Paris, and they decide to swap talent as a way to drum up publicity and sort of help dragging sales bring more attention to the art form. And Amy has a background in dance, and it's been a thread in some of her past series. There was Miss Patty's and Gilmore Girls, and in Bunheads, dance was sort of the setting of that series. So it was fun to see them sort of dive into it more fully with the series.
You're all up on all the dance routines. I mean, you got something for us? Or?
Mark and I have a TikTok dance planned
Okay.
later. Maybe you can join.
The best part is Mark looks surprised.
You think, am I mother of dance?
Yeah, mother
yes,
of
yes.
dance. All right, well,
gonna
without
get on
further
our
ado,
tippy toes.
mother of dance, Mark and Kathryn Hahn.
The Los Angeles Times and The Envelope. I'm Mark Olson, and I'm here today with Kathryn Hahn. We have two shows out right now, both Agatha All Along and The Studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
I am so flattered to be here. Thank you so much, Mark.
And now, were you surprised with how the character of Agatha, really kind of became this fan favorite when WandaVision was on? Were you surprised by the way the character really took off?
Yes. I had never heard of Agatha Harkness. It's not like I do close reads on Marvel comics, but even the diehard comic fans that I know had never heard of Agatha Harkness. She's so tucked away, so deep in the canon of Marvel. So, I mean, I just heard witch and I was like, yes, basically. It's like, I am a witch. I would love to play a witch.
Even the song Agatha All Along, and then with the new series, The Ballad of the Witch's Road. So Agatha was nominated for a Grammy. Witch's Road has been on the charts. What has that been like?
I did not think I had, I was going to be on any of those charts in any of my life. So this was just one of those what? On top of everything else, to just hear Grammy was so crazy. But those Lopez's are no joke. They're incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And that they pulled it off twice with these shows is so extraordinary to me because, of course, the bar must have been very high after WandaVision, and they just exceeded it. I loved it.
Now, you mentioned you heard witch and you were in.
Yes.
Now, with Agatha, there's tarot decks, Ouija board, obviously a lot of spells.
Mm-hmm.
Are you into that kind of thing? Are you sort of California woo-woo at all?
Ohio woo-woo. The real cornfield. No, but I'm kind of, I am, well, this show really turned me on to it, of course, but I've always been a little I don't mind a crystal around. I don't mind having my cards read. Honestly, I could probably join a cult in 2 seconds because I'm so susceptible. I'd be like, really? But but yeah, I don't mind that stuff at all. I like it. I really love anybody that has a deep passion. So when I'm with somebody that's really invested and committed to ruins or tarot, I am hook, line, and sinker in.
And also, I like so much on the show there's these different sort of eras
Yes.
of witchiness. And was that fun? Like that you would have this different costumes and sort of different ways of being?
Yes. I mean, on both shows, like, I didn't know exactly what the through line was going to be I knew there was going to be some kind of trope or genre that we'd be playing with, but I didn't know what it was. And so when I saw that it was opening with her in like a prestige crime drama, was very unexpected and really, really exciting. Jack and I played that so dead seriously. It was very difficult to keep a straight face because we just played it as seriously as we could. And we're like, should we make a procedural crime show? I think we might have to, like a murder mystery, like our own Broadchurch. Like I feel like maybe
I would watch that.
that would be so fun.
Because especially coming off of WandaVision, was it fun as you were getting the scripts for Agatha All Along? Like, what is the world going to be this time?
I didn't know about this till after WandaVision was out and had been broadcast, was out in the world. So I had no idea what Agatha was going to look like when I said yes to it, but I knew it was Jack Schaefer, our writer, and I knew it was Mary Lavanos, our amazing producer. So then when the scripts, they gave me kind of like a template idea of what the season was. And then as I started to get the scripts, it was, of course, just felt like, instead of linear, it just felt like this like deep, like this funnel that just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper, like this concentric layers that just got to like this pit at the bottom of her in the last episode, which was really deep, unexpectedly like heavier than I thought it was going to be, and really, really rich. Still hilarious. That was like important to us, is that she still be funny or have that sense of humor. Like that's, her kind of masochistic side. But also just that there was any vulnerability that you could see for like a second was really unexpected.
Well, tell me more about that, because I feel like you bring a very sort of particular set of skills to this character in that you can like do something that's more sort of like camp and satiric and then shift right into something that feels really earnest and dramatic, sometimes even in the same scene. Did you like know that was a part of it going into it?
Her writing requires a certain dexterity, I think, of genre flipping. And also you just kind of play the play in front of you. So it's kind of, that was what was required in some of those scenes. And that's like my favorite place to be as an actor, that it's not one thing or the other. It's all in there at the same time. And then she did write these crazy fun switches that were, I have to say difficult, but they were just very, it was fun to find. It was fun to find tone in this too, because it could have gone so big or so heavy. So it was like that was a real interesting dance to try to find that. And again, I just love Jack's writing so much that everything you really needed was right there.
Because in particular, you and Aubrey Plaza feel both very well suited to this. And like the two of you together are just really fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's one of my favorite actors. I love working with her so much, and she is extraordinary in this part. And so, again, there was not much over discussion. It was kind of like showing up and seeing what each other brought to the table. And I think there was this unspoken trust that it would just crackle, which it did. Like we kind of really did sit in our corners a little bit. We didn't talk about it much. And I knew she was going to do her homework. I did my homework. And then by the time we showed up, it was just like, you could tell there was this like energy between us. We didn't know what it would lead to necessarily. Like we knew that it was fraught and centuries old. And we knew that there was like a lot of breakups and getting back together, like a lot of that's very toxic. I don't know if anyone has that experience. But it felt like that was already like deeply just kind of in there. So by the time the scene started, it felt very coiled and fun to just go for it.
And now, have you had a lot of experience with like the sort of like harness and like green screen aspects of this? Because especially like the scenes of you and Aubrey, like they are, as you said, very emotional and intense, but you guys are also like flying around the room.
We have amazing stunt doubles. My stunt double Whitney, who's with me all the way from WandaVision. We both really relied heavily on ours, just because we didn't want to slow anything down by, like, for example, my not being able to do some of these stunts, and so we really were like, thank God that we had people that really understood from the inside out, like who we were, so it didn't just feel like robotic. It really does feel seamless. And I think that also helped with keeping the emotional thing the most important that it didn't feel like we were totally trapped in our heads trying to make sure that we didn't, that we were going to flip on the wrong or whatever. But I do love a harness. I'm not going to lie. I love a harness. Like, fly me anytime.
But do you have to get used to it?
It's like the hoisting is interesting the first time you do it. Got to readjust to that feeling.
I've heard you talk in the past about how when you began in your career, you really saw yourself as a dramatic actress. And so your comedy career was kind of a surprise to you. What has it been like now adding like fantasy adventure to that?
Yeah, I always just wanted to be like serious. That's like where my heart was like a serious theater actor. And I guess I was always the class clown. Like, I was always the one screwing around in like serious rehearsals. So I should have known that she was in there somewhere. Yeah, definitely sci-fi. This was a genre I did not expect anywhere in my life. But the fact that I was able to enter it in this particular little corner with WandaVision and then now Agatha was like a dream, because I felt like we really were like the little like forgotten step kids that could just like play in our own sandbox. Like, I just felt like all hands were off, and we kept saying, I can't believe we're getting away with this. And so it was really thrilling to have that be my entry into this world, because it was real. They were so open. It felt as similar as it did to any other much smaller projects that I've been on. It's an ensemble piece. There's like just the 6 of us, maybe 7. So it really felt like, I guess, going back to theater, that's what it felt like, this ensemble.
Did you have to like make a chart for yourself or something to like understand the kind of like Marvel connectivity and like who sits where in which storyline and stuff?
Yes, I did. Well, they give you a binder, at least Mary did, that has like where your character's shown up in like the history of the Marvel comics. So I kind of could see where Agatha had touched, and she's like, the villain, she's a mentor, she's like all these different things. I definitely could play with WandaVision for sure. And then, yeah, you see all the movies, which are really, but this also kind of exists in its own. There's some mythology, the Wiccan for sure, and Scarlet Witch, of course, but Agatha was kind of this like found coven that we were able to kind of put together. And a lot of the characters have different trajectories going forward for sure. But this was it felt like its own bird.
But also, it's my understanding that the character of Agatha, she can kind of pop up anywhere within those other storylines.
Yeah.
So, like, are you ready to, like...
I'm so ready. I am chomping at the bit. Who knows?
And now, you've been in, like, popular stuff before, but, like, Marvel popular seems like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
What has that part of it been like sort of encountering the fandom and like everything sort of around it?
Yeah, it was a change. At WandaVision, I didn't feel any shift because it was pandemic, I think, and masks all the time, and I wasn't on any social media, and I'm just at my toe into it this time around. But I am, and I'm walking around, it's fine, but it's only when like there's a fan situation happening that you show up for that you realize like the reach that this show and these characters have had, and it's very moving to me. I like really sweet humans that find connection with this show in particular. So I couldn't be more flattered by it. Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about how the Agatha All Along in particular has developed like a young queer fan base. What has that meant to you?
We kind of so much of this show was about the kind of in the superhero realm, the kind of the humans that don't get seen or don't feel like they can be their entire selves or bring their entire selves to the table. And there's something about a coven that all ages, you can speak be completely yourself and be celebrated for it. You can raise your voice. Don't mean men. But like there is something very powerful about that collective also. And the collective spirit being the thing that can carry you and lift you up confidence-wise, personally. So the fact that it has found this audience is very tender to me, because I feel like there's like, especially for young women and young queer people, it seems like a very safe space. So that just makes me so happy.
What kind of encounters have you had with fans? Like, what has that been like?
It's very like, there's can be some that are very emotional. So that is also like really dear. And I want to engage with everybody because I'm so happy they showed up. It sounds so sad, but I am. It really big, like it takes a lot for somebody to have that investment in a character that you've played, that you kind of represent, is really new for me. Really new for me. Because she's like, Agatha's like this avatar.
Mm-hmm.
She's like over there, but she means so much. I guess everyone could say that in the Marvel universe or many other universes.
Because you have had some other lead roles in the past, but you mostly have like played supporting parts and been part of ensembles.
Yeah.
Like, what has it felt like to be, especially on the series, like to be in that sort of like lead role on a project that feels this big?
Yes, you're right. Because I've had lead roles in like kind of tinier shows where maybe the audience is not as wide. This, because it's Jack, because of the nature of what it was, like I was saying, it really had to feel like an ensemble. Like you could not be in a one-man band on that set. We were all there all the time. We never went back to our trailers. You had Patti LuPone, which is the greatest. So like it was just, you really had, it was like there was no really room to get in your head about that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It was what we had to do was so daunting, the amount of work we had to finish and the time that we had and had the ambition of it and the scope of it, that once we like rolled up our sleeves and like took that first step onto the road together, it was like just a train that took off until the end, basically. Yeah. So there's no time to like think about that stuff.
But now, are you getting like recognized in public more? Like, do you feel like it's changed sort of like your fame situation?
Yeah, I think it has. There is definitely a change, but not like anything that doesn't feel just kind and manageable.
Because I've heard you talk in some other interviews kind of about how you feel about where you are at right now. Like, are you happy that this is happening to you, like at the age you are, the kind of place in your career that you are? Like, what is that like to you that it's happening to you now?
Well, because I don't have any experience of it happening to me at any other time or age, right now it's perfect. It's exactly as it was supposed to be. So right now is ideal. No, the whole thing is a real like, what? I do feel like Chauncey Gardner and Being There sometimes. Like I just showed up like, what's happening? I don't even know that movie.
Sure, of course.
But it does have a little of that feel of it. Like, I've just found myself in this situation, in this part, in this world, in this universe. But again, I couldn't be cooler. I keep going back to the witch. I love a witch and I couldn't be prouder to be playing one.
Patti LuPone has said that she has been told there's going to be no season 2.
Yes.
But then Jack Schaefer, some Marvel executives, they've like been a little more circumspect about it. Do you know if there's going to be another season of Agatha All Along?
Well, I certainly heard what Patty had heard, but I also know that who knows? You know what I mean? You just kind of, I don't know. And things can move very fast over there or slowly over there. So all we know and I know is to just celebrate that incredible television that we were able to be a part of. And then who knows? Yeah. I mean, I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
You think we would all say that?
You'd be up for more?
No. Yes. Yes. I love this witch.
And now tell me more about working with Patti LuPone, because my impression is that like everyone that sort of comes into her orbit,
yeah,
like she really, like somehow everybody suddenly is revolving around Patty.
Yes.
And like she has a very specific energy. And I'm just curious what it's like to like encounter her and work with her.
She is just such a theater bird, rolling her sleeves up, getting down and dirty, putting her costumes back. Like her ethics as a actor and a performer are just, you want every young actor to be around that. I always can tell a theater actor, and I know she can too, like there is just a different respect that a theater actor has for their environment and like their props and their clothes and also just having the emotional intelligence that she has to kind of know exactly when to dance and laugh and joke around, and then when to like kind of make the scene area a little bit more sacred and quiet. And she also doesn't take it too seriously, and she's just so good. And she's a pleasure to be around. She puts everybody so at ease that it actually created an even deeper bonding, I think, in this cast. Yeah.
And
just to get together and worship her must feel good.
Well, it must be fun for you to like be around someone that you feel like you can still learn from.
Oh, there's so many people I feel like I can still like that I have so much to learn. I feel like everybody I work with, I'm learning something. But I know for sure because of the career that this woman has had at such a quality of craft that is so rare to really see. That's something that felt very wondrous about meeting her, because I went to acting school. I started in the theater. A lot of humans have, and there is something that is like different about a theater bird, I guess. Yeah, you can just know it.
And what do you think that is?
I just think I was saying before. I think it's a command of oneself, like an authorship of oneself, an autonomy, that there a respect for the script. When you're on the stage, the curtain goes up and then it comes down, and between that, between those two moments, it's yours. So I feel like there's somewhat of I can always tell like there's a confidence that comes with knowing your path, like knowing what you want, knowing what you're looking for in the scene, that feels so specific.
Mm-hmm.
And you just immediately, like, especially like Patty, who's owns the stage, because you trust her on stage, like, that everything's good. You feel like you're in very good hands. And I feel like that, definitely feel like that on jobs. Like, you can be like, okay, I'm in this person's hands. I'm going to be taken care of.
No, when was the last time you did something on the stage?
Oh, it's been so long. I did Boeing, which is like this farce that was like 2008, maybe. But it was a dream. It's my one and only time on Broadway. Mark Rylance, it's incredible. Bradley Whitford, Gina Gershon, Baranski, Mary McCormick, Matthew Warchus directed it. It was a dream. Yeah.
You're going to go back?
I cannot wait to. It's not the best job for a mom when you're out of town, but because you only have one night off. But now that my kids are getting older, I'm very excited to return to the boards.
And has that changed a lot for you? Like the practicalities of like your home life, your kids, like what you feel like you can and can't do? And is that sort of, I don't want to say opening back up for you, but like as they get older, is that changing for you?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this because I have a kid about to go to college, and reflecting on, I've said before, like this chunk of my career didn't happen until after I had kids, weirdly, like this chapter where I was working with these incredible women filmmakers and doing these kind of like really crunchy, juicy, complicated women parts. And it is like the flip side of that is like, that is the time when I was like, it's kind of works out this way, unfortunately, humanity wise, where a woman's like childbearing and young motherhood is also their most like prime, earning time as a human. So that push pull for me was really difficult, of being at home and not being at home and have the luxury of being able to work. But then, so it's only now that I'm starting to be like, oof, it's an intense job for a mom, for sure. I mean, I'm so proud of all of it, but, and I'm certainly not going to stalk them for the rest of my life because I miss them so much. I'm very excited for them. But it is like you look back and you're like, wow, like that chapter along with motherhood was pretty beautiful and really intense.
But it'll be interesting to see like what sort of parts you
100%. I have no idea. Like, I'm very curious. I was also talking about this with a friend. It's like, when does an actor retire? Like, that's something that never really occurred to me, that would even be a choice. Like, I was just going to do it forever. And then, which I would still love to do, but I'm very excited to see what the next, what these next chapters are. So curious. I'm so open. Actor for hire, Mark.
Well, it's funny because there's so many, I mean, I know it's different, but there's so many filmmakers now who are like working into their like 80s and even 90s.
Yeah.
That I feel like it had like the playing field has like changed a little bit, and like people can sort of keep going longer.
Yeah.
And you look at someone like, say, like a Jane Fonda or like Lily Tomlin. They
James Quibb, goddess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If it continues to be as, it's not always the case, but I feel like this last chapter, I've been able to do some pretty parts that I've been really excited to be able to play, but to have the opportunity to, and I hope that it continues in that, like, that I can keep aging alongside these like interesting filmmakers and storytellers that want to tell those stories as we age. There's so many stories.
And now I want to ask you some questions about the studio
Please.
as well. Now, your character is like the marketing chief of this film studio, but she also feels like it's this very specific kind of like LA woman.
Yes.
Where she's like sort of ridiculously on trend and maybe trying a little too hard to be sort of like of the moment.
You think?
And did you base her on anybody specific?
Not one person specifically, but like you said, there is a genre that it could be like moms at a school. It could be like, but there is definitely a genre of human, not even necessarily in this industry, that have that need, feel comfortable in the armor of labels and money. That it really is like a way of armoring oneself through clothes and labels, because you can't wear a label without having everybody know how much it costs. Like, that's the point. So it's not quiet luxury. So I do think it's a specific person that takes a lot of joy in that. And it's like a rush. I think it's a real adrenaline rush to be like, Prada, Prada, Prada.
We got a trailer crisis. Heartland Theater owners are refusing to show this because of the diarrhea explosion.
What? That's literally the funniest part of the trailer.
No, hold on. This is a movie where zombies infect people with their diarrhea. How the f*** else are we supposed to sell this guy?
Okay, well,
But now, did you like park yourself in front of an Erewhon or something and check people out? Or how, knowing that that's what you're going for,
Yeah.
like, how do you sort of get yourself there?
Well, Seth and Evan wrote a particularly specific character. And their amazing costume designer, Cam, really, when my first fitting, I was like, oh, I see it. Just everything was so specific. And so finding that really made she just became Technicolor, I think, through those fittings. Yeah. But there was in the wild, you just pick up stuff along the way that you just kind of feel like, especially with a character like her, that you see a lot. Yeah. It also feels like there's a little bit of tragedy. Like there is a little bit of just panic of not being relevant, trying to be on trend at all times. So paranoia that there's a young, fresher person behind you that's going to take it. You're this close to your career being exploded at any second, not knowing the new rules. That always, there is definitely a total panic and paranoia all the time. Yeah.
And then
it seems really relaxing.
I know. Are you a big researcher? I'm curious, what sort of preparation or what kind of work you put in, before you're shooting?
Well, I'll say for Agatha, that was a real, a deep, kind of year long, I met with a witch every week. I did work with tarot and crystal. I loved it. I really loved that chapter so much. And learned a lot, even if I hadn't been playing that part. I really respected the humans I talked to, deeply, madly. And with Maya, again, because she's so specific on the page, that I really didn't have to do much besides what was in front of me. She just was very clear to me when I read it, who she was. And I did remember that Seth and Evan had talked about her being more of a foil, more of an antagonist, maybe less fashion forward, just kind of more and that it became more clear that it would be funner if she had just more hilarious and also more desperate if she had this kind of ache to be relevant.
And now I don't mean this
dark, empty hole with just labels.
I know I don't mean this facetiously, but how do you find your research witch? How do you find the witch that you want to
This woman had been working with Marvel and Agatha, and so she was kind of sent my way, and then I kept working with her, and she's rad. Yeah, to meet a modern real witch, and just I get it. It's beautiful. I mean, it's like being close to the planet and being close, just also feeling you're part of a coven, just having your peeps around you that lift you up and make you feel that you can say what you be completely yourself around. Yeah.
And then with the studio,
definitely less woo than I thought it was going to be.
What do you mean?
It's just it just feels more grounded and real. I can wrap my mind around it. It doesn't feel I still can't quite figure out astrology. But now I have amazing people that know how. a lot of friends I can call on.
And then with the studio, like with those costumes, like do you get involved at some point? Like,
Yes, that's the most fun. Our costume designer Cami, like we would have the best fitting sessions because it was like the Coco Chanel more is more. Like we just it was never enough. We just kept putting more and more on. I can't remember if it was Coco Chanel that was like, put it all on and take one thing off before you leave. And it was for Maya, it was always like, put 2 more things on before you leave. Gild the lily.
And now on the show, your character and Seth Rogen's character have this thing where like, I think they have kind of a past and they're like, they keep saying like, we said we're not going to do that anymore. And there's one moment in one of the later episodes where you like almost are kissing and you sort of like flick your tongue at him. And it's like very strange, but like very funny. And like, where's that come from?
I don't know. We have to ask a professional. I don't understand. We knew that was all, that was like that storyline kind of was not in the script. It kind of emerged as we were doing it. It made us laugh so hard that there was this weird past that was clearly not about, it was just about, we kept joking, it was about a warm body, but there's nothing romantic about it at all. And that just kept making us laugh more and more. So I know the moment you're talking about it, and that also really made us laugh. But it was basically her trying to get something in there with a huge audience behind.
But do you, I mean, I guess for me,
like what is
trying to understand like the sort of mechanics of improv.
Yeah.
Like, do you get into sort of almost like a flow state or like almost like automatic writing where like you're not totally aware of what you're even doing? Or like, do you have like some things in mind that maybe you could do? Like, I'm just wondering if you have like a bag of tricks.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, where did that come from?
I used to do that. Like with Anchorman and Step Brothers, I was so afraid of improvising. I would get in my head. So my improvising, quote unquote, would be like to have a list of alternates. Because that's also kind of back in the day when people did that. I guess what Judd would just, Apatow or McKay would just like shout out ideas, or the camera would be on you and you could do alts, they called it. So that was definitely in the beginning. But then sometimes I found that they were not that live or crackling because I had already thought of something cute the night before or whatever. So I think the flow state is really important. Any improviser, I think, would say that. And it's really fun when you get into that with an ensemble. That is the best feeling. Something like this, because it's a single take and you know when the camera is going to be on you for your joke, whatever, and then it moves to somebody else, you have a certain amount of time. So it becomes a little more mathematical. You know the camera, because you don't want to screw up the choreography. So after you've done it a while, then you kind of can spidey sense how long the camera's going to be on you to try something in that amount of time before it, and that you can tell will work and not screw up the whole take. That's based on everything we've done, not just a funny idea you've had. And so that became a really, really great, that became a really fun acting challenge, was to be able to find those spaces if they were necessary, to slip something else in there. So we found it, definitely we found a lot in there on the day. But for the most part, we had to kind of work with this incredible script because the camera was also with us.
But that's interesting to think that like even within these extended oneers, which I think you would intuitively think means there's like a lot of pressure. You have to like know like this happens now. That's like, it's interesting that there still is like some room to move within that.
I'm telling you, that's the only place that happens after like 20 takes. Or maybe you could slip something in, but you certainly don't want to be the idiot that's like, try something cute and then be like, forget it. And have the guy in the camera be like, and put it down, and everybody's sweating profusely because of your cute idea. So yeah, there wasn't a lot of space for that. You had to be really confident with the rest of the scene and the flow and just what was landing before you could, and sometimes even just have to ask Seth and Evan if it would be worth it.
And then with making the studio in particular, did it bring up a lot of like Hollywood memories, or like as far as like awkward meetings, bad auditions, award shows? Like, would it kind of remind you of some of that stuff that's maybe happened to you?
I mean, it's interesting, Mark, because I've always felt kind of like basically just invited to the party. So I always have felt like the kind of like messy stepsister on the outside, like looking in. It's always felt like, they're the cool people that got it figured out and can like, be loose with conversation with everybody. Like, I always felt like I couldn't wait to get to set and just like be with the crew and the actors and a part that I was in love with. And I never felt very deft with the mechanics of being a Hollywood person. Hollywood people. Maybe that'll be the name of my autobiography. But so it does. The feelings of being kind of sweaty, like red-faced and kind of awkward is very familiar to me. So maybe I drew on that a little bit. There's some of these interactions in this feel very similar. I can see how an executive or someone, not even somebody working this business, would have to say something nice to someone to just save face, and then all of a sudden they're in this weird long game lie. Because then there's so many other people involved in it, and it all comes from a fine intention. But that kind of stuff is so stressful to think about, and I feel like this show really nails that feeling.
Do you feel more comfortable as a Hollywood person now?
No, I love this business. I love the people that I get to work with. I feel really fortunate that anybody that I've, from the like producers, execs, like I work with some pretty decent, good eggs. So, but it certainly doesn't make me feel like I belong here. Like it's a city of it's where it's like the magic stuff. I'm still a kid in Ohio that's looking at a theater screen, in a dark theater, being like, "What? How do they do that?" No, but they always look so, huge and larger than life and confident. And I think that's maybe why turning to or being able to like figure myself out on camera after coming from the stage has been so pleasurable and been so about the people I've worked with, for sure.
Well, Kathryn, I will say that I think you belong as a Hollywood person now. I'll vote you in.
Really?
I have that power.
You have a lot of power.
Yeah. But
thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. The shows are Agatha All Along in the studio. Kathryn Hahn, thank you for being here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
After the break, we'll have Yvonne's interview with Amy Sherman-Palladino and Dan Palladino.
Thanks so much for being here. It's great speaking with you.
Thank you.
Very nice
to be here.
I think before we get into Étoile, we have to understand the backstory of what led us here. Amy, can you lead us into how you came into the dance world? I know your mom was a dancer. What do you remember about that experience that then led you to pursue dancing?
Well, when you're 4 and your mother tells you to go to a dance class, you just kind of go. It's sort of like you get in the car and they dump you somewhere. And then you go in and there's a lot of other little kids and you're all wearing tutus. That's how they get you. They get you with the tutus. Because when you're 4 and they give you a tutu, you're kind of like, I'm in. And then later you learn, oh, wait a minute. There's more than just the tutus involved.
Right.
But I trained all the way up until I got actually for my first writing gig in my 20s. I was supposed to be a dancer. Mm-hmm. And then somebody paid me to do something else, like a paycheck. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, in the world, they can give you money and you can pay rent. So that's when it all became very clear that I was not meant to be a dancer. But I've always loved it. It's always stayed with me. My mom was a dancer. So it was just sort of a given that would kind of be the path. There was I don't remember any lengthy discussions about anything other than like when I was in my 20s, my dad turned to me at dinner once and said, did you want to go to college? Because we would have sent you. Like we literally never discussed it. It was like simply not on the table. And I'm like, no, why? And then I sent Rory to college. So there you go. I had my college experience through Rory and I didn't have to pay for it. So it worked out nicely. But it's something it stays with you. It's something, if you love it, you never quite, you always want to go back and do a bar. And every now and then I would go back and I would be like, I'm going to do a bar. And then I'd be like, I can do the whole class. And then I'd be like in a hospital for 2 weeks. So like every few years the dream would come alive and then be crushed again. But
what style were you studying?
Mostly classical ballet until I got into my teens, and then I added in I took a class from a woman named Karan Brown, who would give, her classes were 3 hours long, and you would do an hour at the bar, an hour on point, and an hour on the floor. And she put a lot of modern dance into the classical ballet. And I loved that, but it was ridiculously brutal. It was like I was like, you sure you don't hate me for some reason? Like, this isn't personal. But she was an amazing teacher, and I did that for a long time. And tap, you have to learn tap. If you're going to audition, they make you learn tap. It's just a thing. You got a time step. And then once I started writing, I still went to class on the weekends, just to sort of, I don't know, just out of habit. And then one day I remember sitting in that writer's room going, oh, wait a minute, I never have to put on pointe shoes again. It was like a revelation. It had never occurred to me before.
But did you feel an aliveness in dancing that you don't feel in writing, or?
Well, it's very different. I mean, dance is...
She's been dead ever since.
Yes, I've been dead inside. It's just very different because it's something is very physical and it's very internal, and you really get to know your body, and the other is cerebral. So it's just a very different use of had I paid more attention in school, maybe my grammar would be a lot better, or my spelling, because I suck at that. He can attest to my terrible actual physical writing skills.
No commas. You put in no commas.
I don't have time. I don't have time for commas.
It's just a little thing.
No, there's no time. There's no
How
time.
about dashes?
No.
No. Very little punctuation.
Just get the words down and move on.
Period.
Just get the words down and move on.
Well, Dan, what struck you about that background with her, and how have you guys found ways to keep it sort of in your life even now?
We're two people that, like, the arts have been everything. I didn't really go to college either, but we grew up in LA, and so the entertainment industry was around us. And the great thing about the entertainment industry, especially back when we started, is that they did not ask you what college you went to. They really didn't. For starter jobs, all they needed was hustle, hard work. I've been working since I was 13, delivering newspapers on the streets of Los Angeles.
I love that.
Thought I'd get that in.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you.
Good.
Yes.
I liked
Subscribe to your local papers,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes. So, we just both sort of naturally gravitated into the arts here in Los Angeles. And that really, and Étoile, the new show, is really sort of a love letter and sort of an SOS about the arts in general.
Yeah, big SOS.
It's about ballet, but it's also in its way also about theater and the music industry and just anyone trying to express through some sort of artistic form. We wanted to show the difficulty, the struggle, and the struggles in front and behind the scenes as well.
Talk more about that. I mean, we're seeing major cities cutting funding. We know that the arts have struggled since the pandemic to really come back to where they were before that. So this premise started with the sort of message forward look, or how would you describe it?
No, it's been with us for a while, but it takes on an extra urgency in the times that we're in, where the arts are completely under siege, and theaters, especially small theaters, regional theaters, they're being decimated. And everything with ballet is like, every day I get an email like, do you know how many pointe shoes a ballerina goes through, a year? And they're all on TikTok doing like, I'll do 50 pirouettes I'm like, please, I'll pay you not to do 50 pirouettes on TikTok. Please just save your body. And for the stage, it's like, it's a very, and without the arts, I just don't think people understand it. It's slowly disappearing. It's disappearing. It's been disappearing from schools way before the pandemic. When we went to school, there were arts in school. There was drama, and there was dance, and there was music, and singing, and now that's become unimportant. It's actually the most important thing. It's the one way that humans can totally communicate with each other, past language barriers, past education barriers, past cultural barriers. Without it, we cease to be human. And I think I think you lose the arts, it's game over. It's time to just big bang this shit and move on with the human race, because it really is. It's so tragically important, and we're hoping people just like sort of open their eyes a little bit more that something special can go. It can go if you don't pay attention to it. I think people are learning that politically, that if you don't pay attention to things, they can be taken from you, and you're like, hey, where did that go? That was nice to have. That right was nice to have for a while. Oh wait, it can go. Oh, I didn't realize that. Arts are the same thing. So I don't think we created it for that reason. We've never been message writers, but I think it takes on an urgency in the time it's being produced.
It's been more than a decade since we lost Bunheads, which I'm still mourning. Still mourning. That show,
You
of
and me
course.
both.
That show,
You.
of course, starred Sutton Foster
Yes.
as a Vegas showgirl turned small town ballet teacher. What did you learn from that experience that you applied here? And did you find when you're pitching a show about the dance world, was there interest? Was it a hard sell? Like Dan, what do you remember about this?
Well, on Bunheads, we met our choreographer, Marguerite Derricks, who is with us on Étoile. So that was one of the great things. Yeah, we love doing Bunheads. I would say in our business right now, buyers of material are really leaning into IP, which is intellectual property, which is it's much easier to sell,
Which
say.
actually sounds fancier than what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's much easier to sell John Krasinski is Jack Ryan and he's holding a gun than it is to sell an ensemble show, workplace, hour-long comedy set in the world of ballet in front and behind the scenes. We don't want to lose that. We're not against doing something from a book or anything like that. And in a way, we Amy created an IP in Gilmore Girls, which I think probably nowadays a lot of people think came from a book, but it came from her head. But
It came from my sadness and my desperation.
We're so thankful for that.
Yeah.
sadness and desperation.
but I'd say right now it is more difficult to go in with a brand new, fresh idea based on nothing. And
That's a hard sell.
We're always
Did you have to tap dance?
I always tap dance. But you walk into a room with a big hat and you talk really fast. People want you to get you out of the room.
Yeah.
It's like, my whole career is sort of fear driven. It's sort of for like, if we say yes, maybe she'll leave. And I think that's worked very well.
And I'm
for
holding
me.
a chalkboard and I'm just running my nails on
Yeah,
it. And
it
they're
just-
like, okay,
Please,
just
whatever you want, just go.
just go.
So that's
It's a
our
perfect
that's
relationship.
our little tip.
But obviously it worked, right?
Well, it's worked so far. Well, we'll see. I mean, I think Étoile is facing a real uphill struggle to exist. I mean, we got the first season through. I think partially because there's a lot of, hey, look over there at Amazon, and they're focused on that, and then we're gonna run over there and we do our thing, and then by the time they pay attention, we've done it. But I do think that it's not an original show is not in vogue right now,
Right.
and it's not something that I think Amazon is particularly interested in. So, we got that first season, and we have the pieces, and we have this wonderful cast, and these unbelievable dancers. But I think the second season is going to be a tough fight if there's a fight to be had at all.
It's sort of like the subjects mirroring the
Yeah.
experience, right?
100%.
It's solely up to your listeners.
Yeah. Okay.
Solely.
No. We need them to
all on you.
watch and subscribe.
There you
so
go.
it's
Go buy toilet paper,
Yeah.
because apparently that's what they really like is when people buy toilet paper. So if people go buy toilet paper, and as they're purchasing the toilet paper, they write, "We are purchasing this toilet paper because we enjoy Étoile," that might happen.
Okay. Good to know. Talk to me about how you landed on the premise of these two major ballet companies sort of swapping. I didn't know that this actually happened in 2009.
I know,
and
we didn't either. We're like, oh God, we work too hard, man. We should go on the internet.
We're not as original as we thought. There was IP. Life was the IP.
That's right. Oh, wait a minute. If we can convince Amazon it was IP.
Life. Yeah,
maybe
it's
we
IP.
got a shot.
It's life.
It's there.
A lot of our dancers have abandoned toe shoes for TikTok. The dressing rooms are filled with screaming babies and rescue dogs. A generation of young people was lost. The pipeline is ruined. The seats are empty.
Not ours.
No, that's right. Once we closed off the balconies, the house filled right up.
We have to fix this. Our jobs are on the line. Yours, mine, every person in here. Their heads are on the chopping block.
Okay, fine. Big talk. What do we do?
I propose a swap. We trade our top talent, yours for ours.
We wanted to do our version of a workplace comedy, and we're not interested in this is something that interested us. You know, we thought, well, that the ins and outs of a ballet company and the juxtaposition of the ethereal elegance on stage versus the kind of brutal, cutthroat, race against time, lack of money, athletic training that it is backstage. We thought that is going to, and dancers are just weirdos. And I say this with all the love in my heart because I was a dancer and I love them more than anything. Mm-hmm. They're very strange people, and they're sort of cultish, and they're all in a room together and they pile on each other, and they're always like, you know, jumping on each other and laying on each other and doing weird push-ups that I've never seen before. And it's just like, they're just an interesting bunch of people. And we wanted to show that side of it. What we wanted to impress upon is the problems since the pandemic, and so it was the original, like, let's get butts back in seats idea. But the thing about ballet that really gave us great story is the Paris Ballet is the oldest, or one of the oldest, ballet companies in existence. It goes back to the courts of the kings. And in comparison, New York is sort of the young upstart. And we really liked the juxtaposition of the old, the tradition, the steeped in history versus sort of the new rule breakers. But also it was, in Paris, it is government supported. They have pensions, they have healthcare, they have, in America, it's sort of like they're doing pirouettes on TikTok to try and raise money for their toe shoes. So it's like we wanted to be able to also lean into the differences that good and bad that come with tradition versus sort of the newbies.
With a show of this scale, like watching it, whether I'm in the rooms in Paris or just seeing what's on stage, seeing the amount of extras or background actors, where do you start with an undertaking like this, Dan?
At a bar. Dan, go ahead.
Start at a bar, you end at a bar.
Like, what was the first hurdle?
The first hurdle, probably the biggest hurdle on this that's unique to this, was putting together a core of 20 dancers to be the company in each of the cities. So you see the same 20 people. That took a long time. Yep. You see they're real dancers. A lot of them are still professional dancers that are taking some time off or just retired or feeling like they want to break from that world. So putting together those people, I mean, we had to do international auditions to draw people from London or Paris or Stuttgart or New York or, you know, wherever we could find them. So that was painstaking. It took a long time. It paid off, though, because we had that great core. That was the core that was in most of the dances. That was the core that were playing extras then. We gave a lot of them lines, so they were real people talking, real dancers talking. That was probably the biggest thing. Yeah, because actually shooting, the scheduling thing we ran into with Paris is that they had this thing called, I don't know if you heard of it, the Olympics.
So time-consuming and annoying.
Very inconveniently, right in the middle of when we're supposed to be there.
Simone Biles. I'm like, can she dance on point? Because maybe we could use
She probably could.
I know for a fact that no one watched the Olympics. No. I didn't watch it, and I know that.
Such a big deal.
So what was the hurdle from that?
But they basically,
they made us leave the country.
France kicked everybody out of the country. There's a reason Emily in Paris was scootering wandering around Rome. She was not allowed to shoot in Paris because they wanted it clear for like several months, many weeks before. All
every
during.
like vacant anything was taken up
They took
by
everything.
the Olympics.
And they didn't want us walking around the streets or anything because there was so much security and so much all that stuff. So that was a one-time issue for us. But we had shot before in Paris in for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We actually used the same production company. So
a lot of the same
our
crew.
guy Raphael was there. A lot of the same crew. So we knew that shooting there. We knew that they have different hours and all that stuff. I won't go into the boring details of that, but the French workers think that they want a life over not having a life. I don't understand that
craziness.
They only want to work 10 hours a day instead of 16, and it's like, hello, I guess you want sleep too and see your kids. I don't understand their lifestyle.
I need to work in Paris.
But so
it was amazing.
So we knew all that, and then once you get into the rhythm of working with the crews and sort of the different roles, it's absolutely wonderful working in a place like Paris.
What was the initial reaction that, like, the rumblings or whispers you heard from within the dance community when they heard you were making the show? I mean, and how did your work on Once Upon a Mattress, like, sort of prep you for this or help you?
They were wary. We had to do a lot of We Come in Peace, a lot of, because also ballet is a couple things have happened in entertainment and ballet. One is that it's easy because you see all this fluid beauty on stage and a lot of tool. It's easy to think that the fun thing to lean into is, but off stage, they're all vomiting and pushing each other off of buildings. Right. Which, by the way, I didn't see one person push someone off of a building. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it didn't happen on our watch. There's all, and I think they were sort of feeling like they've never been, or to their satisfaction, haven't been portrayed as the full round, like what the true dancer experience is. The other thing is, I think a lot of times they try and hide who the dancers are, and sort of push them into like this just happened magically, and there was no real dancer behind this. And one of our big things when we approached our dancers is to say, this is not a show about dance. This is a show about dancers. This is about you guys and your story. Nobody puts on pointe shoes and walks around in tights unless they're an actual professional dancer on our show. And we wanted them to understand they were not wallpaper. They were the story. So I think it took a while, and it's part of the reason it took so long to cobble together these two, because a lot of people were wary of, like, what are we getting into, and why am I going to leave my company for this amount of, I know that you're paying us money, but still, like, what are you going to do and how are you going to portray? So it took a little bit of time, but as the dancers started doing it, words started trickling back. So we were very lucky to have like Tyler Peck and Unity Phelan and Robbie Fairchild and Benjamin Freeman. We had these wonderful, like, top ace dancers who would come in, and then they would go back to their friends and they would say, they're not as bad as you think. Right. Like, it seems to be like they care, and they, and we took really good care of them. We spent fortunes on all of our sprung floors because I didn't want dancers dancing on anything that could hurt them or injure them. It was very important. Their health was important to us, and our crew took we told them they are more important than your cameras right now. These are the people that we're all caring about. So I think there was trepidation at first, and I think that by the end of it, I think we just gained their trust, and then I think they started to have fun, because it was fun with what we were doing, and we were all in it together. So it was and working with dancers, being in a world of artists who are purely in it for the art, because like they're literally never going to make a dime. It's something that I think every cynical person in Hollywood should spend a few hours in a dance studio. They should take their computers or whatever they're going to do and go sit in a dance studio and really absorb it and watch it and feel it. And it will change your cynicism, at least for the moment.
You both direct this season. And, as we talked about before, you have actors that did dance, actors who didn't dance, dancers who've never acted. You've got people from your Palladino universe. You got fresh faces. What did that mean in terms of directing, or what was that like, having all these sorts of assortments of cast members?
It was like Bunheads in a way, in that on that show, we had some actors who were brand new, young people who were brand new. In this show, we had
11.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this show, because it was in a more adult world, they were older, but these were dancers who had never acted before.
Some of them. Tyler's done some stuff.
Yeah, Tyler and people like that. But there were some French actors that we kind of featured that who had never been on camera. I think we're good people to have the experience with of like doing your first on camera thing, because we actually enjoy it.
We also spent a lot of time with them.
Yes.
So we got their voices in our heads, so we sort of know, Umi this is a good moment for her. Like, it sort of felt like when you get to know people, kind of where they live and what is going to be fun for them.
You both have, obviously, a specific, distinct style. You're known for the rapid-fire dialogue that's often heavy on the references. Here, you're trying to do that in English and in French.
Yeah.
Talk to me about navigating that, the sort of settling into a groove there.
We have problems mentally. We are very ill.
We don't speak or write French.
No. We have all the apps downloaded on our phone.
We found
nothing but Duolingo sighing at us every day, going, "Oh,
not you again."
Just so much disappointment.
No, we went through many translators in the beginning and found a really great translator that about whom all our French actors were saying this is the right rhythm, like they're getting your English rhythm in French, because that was the tricky part. Apparently, French has 1/6 the vocabulary of English, which I was surprised to find out.
It seems very American that we have too many.
Yeah, we have way too many words.
We just have a little too much of everything.
Too much of everything. And it was interesting because there were days when we went in and we were reading the script over, and I had written the scene, but it was in French, and I had forgotten what the scene was about, and I had to quickly remind myself. And the actors are like firing all this stuff out. But yeah, and then from there, we're looking for the emotion, we're looking for rhythm, and then sometimes at the end of a scene, we turn to our French assistants and say, "Was that funny?"
Yeah. I was going to say, how do you know if it's landing?
Did they say all the words? And he goes, "No, yeah, it was very funny." Or
a lot of it was, did they say all the words? Because the French speak really fast. It's like, where have they been my whole life? But like they speak so fast, and talk about no punctuation.
Yeah.
Like there's not a period or a comma in the world to stop them once they start talking. So something that we thought was like 6 sentences, 7 sentences would be done in a second, and you have to say, they didn't say all the words, right? Like they left some sentences out, and they're like, no, that's it. They said everything. Like every word that was all of this, they said all that. They're like, yeah, they said all of it. So it was a really different experience, but it was, I will say, we enjoyed it so much, and the French were such gamers. Like they were just so into it, and like there was no laissez-faire, like, oh, we're French, whatever. Like they were like, they came to play. And it's good for, we've been in this business 6,000-7,000 years now, and it's good for us to push ourselves out of our own comfort zone. That's how you don't want to stick your head under a pillow and push down hard at night.
Well, you're known for long scripts. Did Étoile scripts feel any bigger or chunkier than Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or Gilmore Girls?
They felt about the same. We tried to pull them back a little bit, only because we had spread for dance, but the shows are dense. The shows are big, and the dialogue is the dialogue. A lot of the reason that our scripts look so long is not necessarily that they, time-wise, are longer than other scripts. It's just that if a page of dialogue is normally a minute, ours are 30 seconds or less. And so it's just going to double the amount of pages that's math. I learned that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of sometimes it's a little bit of an illusion. But it was tricky. It was tricky. It was also tricky, like in America, we can shoot longer hours. In France, we really had to economize how we shoot things. We have to be very, you had 10 hours, and then they're like, see ya, bye. Like no one even turns the lights off. They're like camera, and they all walk away. And like, oh, we were in the middle of, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. So it's like, we really had to like focus in and get that work done, in the most economical way that we could.
How about what were the conversations like, sort of landing on a visual style for the performances and what you wanted out of those? I love the typography, like whose choreography it is and who's dancing. Talk about what those conversations were like and what you wanted out of the visual look.
That was something we realized in the editing room, because we hit that episode 4 and there were so many dances and we were cutting from one city to the next city that we just wanted the audience not to be like, wait, what is this? Is this the same dance? Is this something different?
It was also a nod, to Turning Point. They did it in Turning Point, which is one of the great, because of Turning Point, we have Mikhail Baryshnikov on camera in his prime that everybody can see when they want to see true greatness at the height of greatness. So, that was our tip of the hat to another movie that really captured and honored dance.
But even the visuals of just the sweeping motions of the camera, was there a lot of conversations of how we want these performances to stand out?
Yeah, we did kind of coordinate, because there were times when, Amy did that shot, I don't want to do this shot, or I want to show you I'm going to do this shot, so don't you dare do this shot before I do this shot. We were shooting everything out of order, so we also had to keep track of what was going where. But I think we just, we choreographed these pieces, we looked at them, and then you just try to picture what is the best way to capture it.
Also,
and then we work with our camera operator and our DP. They come up with ideas. So you stay open to suggestions. You don't go in with a rigid set thing.
A lot of times, though, the dance pieces were story, so they sometimes that dictated the way you shot it, because you weren't just. We tried to not do a lot of like, let's stop for dance. We tried to make sure that the dance was saying something about character or pushing the story forward or as part of the narrative. And a lot of that is going to tell you how to shoot it, because you're not just saying, here's pretty dancing. You're going, this is what's important. This is what you need to be focusing on. This is the moment where, Cheyenne, who has taken over, is going to come in and do something, and then you're going to cut to Tobias, and you're going to realize, oh, that's why we're doing this dance, because Tobias is there witnessing something, and then we're tying it in. And so there's sometimes there's just, it's dictated by the narrative. And the other thing about dance is, if you have dancers like this, show the dancing. We have these fabulous dancers and these beautiful dancers. And there were so many times I'm like, don't you dare cut off those feet. I want the feet. And it was a lot of times like, because they mark it so that they don't get tired while we're setting the camera. And then you have to remind your cameraman, now when they do it, that jump that he marked, it's going to be twice as high, which means he's going to go out of frame if you're not ready for him to go twice as high. So there was a lot of technical stuff just dealing with, we have this great crew that's been with us for so long, and they're all perfectionists, and they would do things a million times. And we have to say, you can't do it a million times, because these are people, and they are going to come and take one. They're going to be perfect.
Right.
So we have to be perfect. Take one also.
Right.
We have to be ready for them, because by take 5, they're going to be like, hey, I ain't doing that triple cabriolet anymore. I'm peacing out on that, and we're done. If we haven't captured it, then we've lost it.
Well, look, the main story is what drew us in, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the way that you guys make us ship for characters and want to see what develops between them, even when we don't know where things are headed, we get some of that, like, it sort of is paced out over the season. How do these people know each other? What's their history? And we get to the finale. Talk a little bit about like developing those kinds of dynamics between the characters.
Yeah, it's just a slow process of, we're in a writer's room. We go down this path. It hits a dead end. We go down this path. That seems to branch out into something.
Lunch is late.
Lunch
we
is
have to
late.
Keep
We
talking because we're waiting for lunch to
We
show
talk
up.
about lunch for 45 minutes.
It's a lot of lunch talk.
We come back in and talk about how disappointed we were by lunch.
That we'll never go to that lunch.
And then
place
that's
again.
a day.
And
then
then
we're
we
done.
realize
And
we
then
haven't talked about the characters at all.
No.
And the next day it
No,
starts all over again.
it's really just if you reverse engineer what we do, you see that it starts small. It starts with some broad ideas. We also tend to think episodes ahead, so we'll know like, oh, we want Tobias to be here in episode 4. So as we start his journey through episode 2 and 3, we got to make sure it kind of leads to that. And you do that with each one of the characters, and this fabric tapestry just kind of gets woven very, very slowly until it's time to shoot it. Really,
we do, and lunch. We do so much talking in the writers' room about where we want our characters to land emotionally, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we know the exact story point that we want them to land on. But we sort of know emotionally where we want them, where they started, and where we want them to end. And a lot of times, then that sort of dictates your ways, your ins and your outs. Our cleanest sort of love story is Gabon and Tobias, and that was a clean. You find your muse, the muse feeds, and they find each other, and luckily, we had this amazing weirdo named Gideon Glick, who was also on our writing staff, who, as we were creating, we hadn't decided that he was going to be the character, and I don't think he was even thinking that, because he was sort of thinking, I'm a writer now. But as we were talking about this character, we just kept staring at him, and he's like, why are you guys staring at me all day long? And we just sort of realized, well, we're like, it's got to be you. And then we found this darling Yvonne, who plays Gabon, and the two of them just clicked. It was, and that's the kind of thing you can put on paper. You can write the shit out of it, and you can have great stuff, and it just doesn't click, and you can't put your finger on why, and you just don't know it, and it just clicked, And then there's other times where things that you hadn't planned. I'll go back to Maisel, Lenny and Midge.
Yeah.
We didn't plan on this big Lenny and Midge, and that someday they were going to be in bed together. Like, that was just sort of like, he was there to sort of service her, sort of her Tinkerbell, her Jiminy Cricket a little bit. And then the chemistry got there, and you saw them together, and you're like, well, you got to go there, because otherwise you're wasting it. So sometimes it's planned and it doesn't work, and sometimes it just happens. It worked with Gabon and Tobias, luckily, like gangbusters, like right off the bat.
That final kiss was good.
It's a good one.
It was good. Yeah. Was there almost no kiss, or there was always going to be a kiss?
There was going to be a kiss.
There was
always
going to be.
And it was funny because I'm the worst person to shoot that kind of stuff, because I kind of never want to see anyone naked, or it's like, I'm into intimacy coordinators. Why?
Well, almost anyone. Right?
I don't want to see it. Like, I'm talking about on camera. I'm just like, I don't know. I get it.
But I'm talking about on camera too.
So I was like, oh, okay, the kiss. So how do you want to, and like, they both looked at me like, what is your problem? Like, it was like nothing for them. They're like, we're just going to kiss. And Gideon's like, I'm going to walk on and kiss him, right? Like, is that what you, like, do you want something weird? I'm like, no. I just like, it's fine. I'll be in the back of the camera. I'll just be over here. So it was very, and they had spent so much time together, and they had just, because that we were all in Paris together. And it was I don't know. It turned out as good as I could have hoped.
As you're thinking about season 2, what are you hoping to explore? I know Luke wants to dance. Could you see yourself writing a dance for Luke?
Oh, Luke. Luke says things.
A nightmare sequence that somebody has of Luke's character dancing, maybe. And maybe it's Luke's character having that nightmare dance. I know Luke. I would say be careful what you wish for, Luke Kirby.
Because if we give it to you, you're going to be calling us in the middle of the night going, yeah, I'm sorry, what? I just read I was like, it was a joke. Like okay, I really have to, all right.
He's got the legs, long legs.
Yes,
he does.
Yeah.
He's a lanky boy.
Anything else, though, that you hope to explore?
I just hope we get a second season. I'm very superstitious, and I'm, if I knew that we had a second season, I'd be like, we're going to go here, and we're going to, but since I'm not getting that sense, I'm just sort of like, everyone enjoy the first season while you got it. So
Do we need to call Crispin Chambly?
I think a Crispin Chambly would help.
Okay.
We got to find a real Crispin Chambly to help us out.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of The Envelope, and we'll have one next week where we will have Janelle James alongside Aaron Pierre. Don't miss it.